People say grief is heavy, but secrets weigh more. Especially when the secret comes wrapped in your dead husband's handwriting. My name is Alina Wright. I was married to James for 13 years. He died 3 months ago in what they called a freak accident. A car crash, a rainy night, a slippery turn, that's it, that's all they said. But that wasn't it, not even close. Because 2 weeks after the funeral, while sorting through his things in the attic, I found something that would change my life forever. A diary. Not his. Not mine. But hers. And she signed it. With love. Mrs. James Wright, Cassandra. Cassandra. I thought I was the only Mrs. James Wright. It started that afternoon, the day I finally had the courage to open the closet he used to lock. James had always been private, not secretive, or maybe I was just too in love to see it. He'd say things like, "My closet's a mess, Ellie, you'll hate it." Or, "That's where I keep boring tax stuff, nothing interesting." I respected his space. I trusted him. But now he was gone. And all I had left were boxes, clothes that still smelled like his cologne, a toothbrush still resting in its holder, and that one locked closet. I found the spare key, taped under the drawer in his study. My hands trembled as I slid it into the lock. Click! The door opened, and there it was. A box. Black leather. Worn edges. And a gold clasp with the initials, CLW. Not mine. Not his. I opened it. Inside were Polaroids, old photos of James, younger, with a woman I didn't recognize. She had jet black hair, olive skin, and a smile that was hauntingly familiar. In every photo, she was holding his hand. Or he had his arm around her waist. They looked married. And beneath the stack of photos was the diary. The pages were yellowed, the ink slightly faded, but the handwriting was elegant, feminine. The first page read, March 3rd, 2010, the day I married James Wright. I became his wife, I became his home. He promised me forever. I dropped the book. 2010. The same year I married James. My heart began to pound. Was it a joke, a mistake, some fantasy fan fiction? But the photos, they were real. And her name, Cassandra, kept appearing again and again on the pages. Their trips, their dinners, their anniversaries. The next few lines read, He says no one knows about us. He says I'm his secret. I told him, I don't want to be a secret anymore. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I sat on the attic floor for hours, reading. Page after page, her story unraveled. She wasn't just a fling, she wasn't some college ex. She was his wife. They had a wedding, small, private. He told her he was divorced. He told me he had no family. Lies. All of it. I had buried a man I thought I knew. Mourned a husband who I believed loved only me. But I wasn't just grieving anymore, I was unraveling. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the rain slide down the glass. Diary clutched to my chest like a relic of war. The next morning, I made coffee and called his best friend Mason. Mason had been James's business partner and fishing buddy for years. Hey Mason, I said, trying to keep my voice from cracking. I was going through James's things, and I came across something strange. He was quiet. I added, a diary. It belonged to someone named Cassandra, says she was his wife. Long pause. Then Mason sighed. Ellie, maybe you should talk to his lawyer. What are you saying? Just talk to him, you deserve to know everything. He hung up. I didn't wait. I grabbed my coat, tucked the diary into my bag, and drove straight to Mr. Holloway, James's longtime lawyer. He looked surprised to see me. I need answers, I said, pulling out the diary and slamming it on his desk. His eyes widened. This belongs to a woman named Cassandra. She said she married James the same year I did. What the hell is going on? He took off his glasses. His face turned pale. Mrs. Wright, this is going to sound insane, but I can't speak without violating confidentiality. I'm his widow. Yes, but you weren't the only one. I sat frozen in Mr. Holloway's office, the air thick with silence. My breath caught in my throat, and I could feel my heart pounding in my ears like a war drum. What do you mean I wasn't the only one? I whispered. He folded his hands and leaned forward slowly, carefully, like his words might shatter something fragile. There was another marriage license. Different state, different name, sealed records. James kept it all buried. Cassandra Lee Whitmore was legally married to him before you. Before me, I choked, but we got married in 2010. So did they. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of his desk to stay upright. That's not possible. He couldn't marry two women at the same time. That's illegal. He used different names, different addresses. He made sure the documents never crossed. My hands shook as I opened the diary again, flipping through pages. James says he's always on edge, afraid someone will find out. But I tell him love shouldn't be hidden. He just smiles and says, "You're my secret sanctuary." Secret. Sanctuary. More like secret scam. And I was one of the women he conned. When I walked out of the lawyer's office, it felt like I had just stepped out of someone else's life, like I had been a background character in my own marriage. 13 years. Birthdays, vacations, nights cuddled on the couch. And now every moment twisted into a lie. I sat in my car, staring at my trembling hands. I wasn't grieving my husband anymore. I was grieving the version of him that never existed. That night, I drank wine for the first time in months. I curled up on the couch with the diary beside me and started reading from where I had left off. Cassandra had written everything. James says he might have to travel more often this year. He said he got a new contract in New York, but I've seen his suitcase. It still has her perfume on it. I don't know who Ellie is, but I think she's the reason he keeps coming home late. I gasped. She knew about me. Not fully. Not clearly. But she had sensed something. And then came the entry that broke me. April 2017. I'm pregnant. James doesn't know yet. I'm scared to tell him. What if he chooses her instead? No. No. She had a baby. I scanned the rest of the pages frantically, but the next few entries were water-stained, illegible, smudged ink, torn paper. But I found this. He was cold today, distant. I asked about the baby and he walked out. Something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong. I need to leave, but I don't know how. My mouth went dry. Had something happened to her? I checked the dates. That was 6 years ago. And after that, silence. No more entries. The diary just stopped. The next day, I went to the city archives. I didn't even know where to start. So I searched for Cassandra Lee Whitmore. One result popped up, a death certificate. My stomach dropped. She had died in 2018. Cause of death, accidental fall. Location, stairwell, private property. No criminal investigation pursued. I froze. James's lake house. The one he used to say was his man cave, the one I had never been to. He said it was old, dangerous, not for me. Now I knew why. I drove there, alone. The road was muddy, surrounded by trees. The house sat at the edge of the lake, isolated, covered in vines and silence. I found the stairs, cracked, dusty, forgotten. And at the base of the stairwell, I found an old picture frame half buried under dust. It was a photo of Cassandra, smiling, holding a baby. A boy. I picked it up with trembling hands. James had a child. He had a son. And he never told me. I dropped to my knees, unable to breathe. The woman he had secretly married was dead. And their child. Where was he? If Cassandra died in 2018, that child would be around 6 years old now. Was he alive? Did James hide him too? My hands clenched into fists. This wasn't just betrayal. This was something darker. I stood up. I was going to find that boy. Even if it meant tearing James's past apart with my bare hands. The next morning, I woke up early, the lake house still lingering in my dreams like a shadow that refused to leave. I couldn't stop staring at the photograph I'd found. Cassandra. Her radiant smile. Her protective arms wrapped around a baby boy. The frame cracked, the glass smudged, but her love, visible in every pixel. She died here. In this very house. Alone. And James, he never mentioned her, never mentioned him. I called every hospital, orphanage, and adoption agency within 50 miles of that lake house. No luck. Cassandra's death report listed no next of kin, no child. It was like that boy never existed. But I knew better. Because Cassandra's eyes in that photo weren't just smiling, they were anchored, as if everything she lived for was that child. James couldn't have just forgotten him. Which meant he hid him. I turned back to the diary and began scanning every detail. Then I found it. A single line I had missed before. There's a woman I trust, her name is Melody, she owns the little bookshop in Harrowfield. I told her if anything happens to me, take care of my son. Melody, bookshop, Harrowfield. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I looked up the town. Tiny place, one bookstore. Melody's Nook, books, tea, and tiny miracles. I was in my car within minutes. Harrowfield was the kind of town where time slowed down, the kind where front porches mattered and neighbors waved. I found the bookstore on a quiet cobblestone street, tucked between a florist and an antique shop. Wind chimes jingled as I opened the door. Inside, the air smelled like vanilla, dust, and something older, something sacred. Behind the counter stood a woman with silvery blonde hair, glasses perched on her nose, and the softest gaze I'd ever seen. I approached. "Excuse me, are you Melody?" She looked up and studied my face. "You're Alina, aren't you?" My heart skipped. "Yes," I whispered. "How do you know that?" She gave a small, sad smile. "Cassandra used to talk about you." We sat in the back room of her shop, surrounded by piles of forgotten novels and a steaming pot of chamomile tea. "She always knew about me?" I asked, voice cracking. Melody nodded. "Not everything, but she suspected. James, he kept both of you hidden from each other. She used to write letters to you, letters she never sent." My chest ached. Why didn't she leave him? Because of the child, and because deep down she still believed in love, even if it was all lies. A pause. She died scared, but she died trying to protect him. "The boy," I said, leaning forward. "Where is he?" Melody hesitated, then reached into a worn satchel. She pulled out a photo. It was recent. A little boy, about 6, curly black hair, brown skin, and the same dimple James had when he smiled. "His name is Isaac. I've been raising him, quietly. I told the world he was my nephew's child." I stared at the photo like it held my entire future. "He's James's son," I said softly. "Yes," she nodded. "But more than that, he's Cassandra's heart, and she wanted him to grow up free of lies." I looked up at her. "He deserves the truth." "He deserves a protector," Melody said. The next day I returned. This time with a teddy bear in my hand and a storm in my heart. Isaac was playing in the yard when I arrived. He wore a green hoodie, jeans with grass stains, and a face full of wonder. As I stepped onto the lawn, he looked up at me, those eyes, Cassandra's eyes. "Hi," I said gently. "Hi," he replied. "Are you the book lady's friend?" "I am," I said, kneeling, "and I knew your mom." He tilted his head. "You knew Mommy?" I nodded, tears gathering. "She was brave, and she loved you more than anything." He smiled faintly. "She told me stories about stars. Do you know them too?" I smiled back. "All of them." That night, I held him while he fell asleep on the couch. His little hand gripped my sleeve. He didn't know the whole truth yet. Not that his mother was gone. Not that his father had two lives. Not that I was, by some twisted thread of fate, his stepmother. But I knew one thing. I was going to protect him, even if I had to burn James's legacy to the ground. When I returned home, I opened a locked drawer in James's office. Inside were sealed envelopes, bank records, hidden documents, and one letter addressed to Cassandra. Never mailed. I opened it with trembling hands. "Cassie, if something happens to me, and I pray it doesn't, tell Isaac I was scared of losing both of you. I messed up. I wanted everything and I lost it all. But if you find this, forgive me. Ajay." Too late. Forgiveness wasn't enough anymore. I had a child to protect, and a truth to expose. The next few days were a quiet storm inside me. I smiled for Isaac. Read to him at bedtime. Cook spaghetti he barely ate and watched cartoons I didn't understand. On the outside, I was a gentle stranger. On the inside, I was a wildfire waiting to burn. James wasn't just a liar. He was a coward. And cowards leave messes behind they expect others to clean up. I wasn't going to be that woman anymore, the one who didn't ask questions, who stayed in the dark because it felt warmer. I was going to be the light. I went back to Mr. Holloway. Slid the envelope across his desk. "Tell me the truth, all of it." He didn't flinch this time. "You found the boy." I nodded. "Then you deserve to know. Cassandra's death was ruled accidental, but I never believed it." "What do you mean?" James called me that night, sounded drunk. He said Cassandra slipped and hit her head. By the time paramedics came, it was too late, but the story didn't make sense. Did he push her?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I sat in the lawyer's office with my heart between my teeth. This wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't even just bigamy. It was manslaughter. Maybe even worse. And the only person who could still speak for Cassandra now was me. But pressing charges against a dead man. Who would listen? What would justice even look like? That night, as Isaac slept on the sofa beside me, clutching his star-shaped pillow, I stared at the ceiling and whispered into the dark. "Cassie, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm trying." The wind brushed against the windows. And I swear I felt something shift, like the universe took a breath. I got up and grabbed the diary again. Something in me said, "Read it again, all of it." So I did. Page by page, tear by tear. Until one sentence near the end caught my eye. James told me the lake house wasn't in his name, said it was under a trust. Something called ELJW Holdings, to protect it from lawsuits. My heart stopped. ELJW. Alina Louise James Wright. My initials. I ran to James's old files, pulled every contract, tax return and land deed I could find. And there it was. The lake house was in my name. Not his. He'd transferred ownership 5 years ago. Why? Was it guilt? A shield? Or a sick trick to make sure if anything ever came back, I'd be the one holding the bag? No. Not this time. The next morning, I filed a request with the DA's office. I had the documents. I had the diary. I had motive. And most of all, I had the child. Cassandra's son. My husband's hidden legacy. My reason now. Within days, I got the call. They were opening a preliminary investigation. They'd exhumed Cassandra's body. The autopsy would be reviewed. They were re-interviewing first responders from the night of the fall. And they asked me one question. Would you be willing to testify? I didn't hesitate. Yes. The news hit fast. It spread like lightning through our community. Local widow exposes dead husband's secret family. Bigamy, betrayal, and a hidden child. Police reopen suspicious death of woman linked to dual marriage scandal. People whispered behind my back. Some pitied me. Some doubted me. But I didn't care. Because when I walked into that courtroom, holding Isaac's hand, I wasn't walking in as a widow. I was walking in as a witness. They showed the diary. Played audio files from James's old voicemails to his lawyer. They revealed financial records, hush payments, hidden trusts, hotel bills, 2 simultaneous life insurance policies. All under different names. When they asked if I wanted to press posthumous charges, I said, yes, not because I want revenge, but because she deserves a voice. And he deserves a truth that follows him, even in death. That night when we got home, Isaac looked up at me with wide eyes. Was Daddy a bad man? He asked. I paused, kneeling beside him. He made bad choices, I said softly, but you're not him, you're you, and you are good. He nodded. Then hugged me. And in that small moment, that hug, I felt something mend inside me. Not fixed. Not forgotten. But healing. Later, Melody called. They ruled Cassandra's death as suspicious now, she said. If it had happened today, they'd be charging him. I know, I said. She'd be proud of you, Alina. I looked at Isaac, playing with toy blocks by the fireplace. She's not the only one I'm doing it for. A week after the court hearing, things finally began to settle, on the surface at least. Isaac had started calling me Ellie Mama. It caught me off guard the first time. He said it with no ceremony, just casually, like it had always been there. Like I had always been there. And maybe, in a way, I had. But healing doesn't come quietly. It drags itself through the past, leaving dust behind. And that dust had one more secret hidden inside it. Melody called me the next morning. There's something I never told you, she said. My stomach turned. After Cassandra died, I came to the lake house. I was the one who found her diary. I packed Isaac's things, but I also found something else. What? A letter, unopened, addressed to you. To me. It was under a floorboard. I kept it in case one day you came looking. I drove to her shop without blinking. My hands sweat on the steering wheel the whole way there. When I arrived, she didn't say a word, just handed me an old, yellow envelope. My name was on it. Alina. I sat in the car for over 20 minutes before I opened it. I could already feel the ghost of her in the paper. Her handwriting was soft, loopy, feminine. Her words, even softer. Dear Alina, I don't know you, but I know of you. Enough to know that you are kind, loyal, and a woman who loves deeply. I see it in his eyes when he talks about you. Yes, he does talk about you more than he knows. The way he avoids your name. The way he pauses when I ask about his past. At first, I hated you. You were the reason he was distant, the reason I cried myself to sleep, wondering why love wasn't enough. But now I understand. You're not the villain, neither of us are, he is. He chose to divide his heart, and then blame the pieces when they broke. My hands trembled as I kept reading. If you're reading this, then something went wrong. Maybe I'm gone, maybe you found Isaac. If so, please take care of him. He deserves joy, the kind that isn't born in lies. And if you can, Alina, please don't let James's truth die quietly. We were both fooled, but we don't have to stay broken. Let's be the end to the story, not its victims. Cassandra. I cried. Not the kind of crying that hurts your throat or makes your shoulders shake. The kind that clears your soul. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like I had lost something. I felt like I had been chosen. That evening, I sat with Isaac again. He was drawing stars, blue ones, gold ones, ones that stretched across the whole page. What are they for? I asked. He smiled. For Mommy, and you and me, you're my sky now. My throat tightened. I'm your what? My sky, Mommy used to say when people love you, they're in your sky forever. I pulled him into my arms. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel hollow. I felt whole. In the weeks that followed, I published Cassandra's diary. 2 Wives, 1 Truth, The Secret Life of James Wright. Some people said I did it for revenge. I didn't. I did it for justice. For Cassandra. For Isaac. And yes, for myself. Because telling the truth is sometimes the most radical form of peace. And the world listened. The book hit national headlines. Talk shows, podcasts, news outlets. People cried. Some were outraged. Some were inspired. And in all that noise, I felt something I never had before. A voice. Not his shadow. Not his wife. But me. One afternoon, I was sitting in a quiet cafe when a woman approached me. Tears in her eyes, a toddler in her arms. You don't know me, she said, but your story saved my life. I was about to marry someone I didn't trust, and your words gave me the courage to walk away. I didn't know what to say. So I just hugged her. Because maybe that's what stories are for. To set someone else free. Even if we had to bleed for every page. That night, as I tucked Isaac into bed, he looked up at me. Did Daddy love you too? He asked. I paused. He loved in a broken way, I said gently, but that doesn't mean you have to. He reached for my hand. I'll love better, he whispered. And I believed him. Because sometimes the best revenge is breaking the cycle. A year passed. The seasons folded over one another like soft blankets, and life, for the first time, felt quiet in the right places. The nightmares stopped. The silence in the house wasn't suffocating anymore. It was peaceful. Isaac had started 2nd grade. He loved dinosaurs, strawberries, and bedtime stories about the moon. And every night before he fell asleep, he asked me the same thing. Tell me one thing that's true. And I always did. Because he deserved a life built on truth. Not secrets. One rainy afternoon, I walked through the cemetery. The wind was sharp. The trees shivered. But I didn't. I stood in front of James's gravestone, simple, gray, forgettable. I used to come here for answers. Now I came to speak mine. I laid a single white rose on the grass and whispered. You took pieces of both of us, but you didn't break us. Then I walked away. And didn't look back. Back at home, a letter had arrived. From a publisher. They wanted a 2nd book. From Widow to Witness had become a national bestseller. And now they wanted to know what happened after. At first, I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to write it, but because I didn't know where it ended. How do you end a story that never truly began honestly? But then I remembered something Cassandra wrote. If we can't rewrite the past, at least let's be the authors of the future. So I picked up my pen. And I began again. Isaac's laughter filled the hallway as he ran down the stairs, wearing his superhero cape backwards and socks that didn't match. He threw himself onto the couch beside me, holding a drawing. It was a family. Stick figures. A woman with long hair. A little boy with a giant smile. And a third figure floating above them, with wings. Is this us? I asked. He nodded proudly. You, me, and Mommy and the stars. I smiled. Perfect. That evening, I sat on the porch with Melody. She sipped her tea. I held my manuscript. You're really going to tell the whole story? She asked. I nodded. People think revenge is about anger, but it's not. It's about truth, about taking control of the narrative. She smiled, eyes soft. Then tell it, Alina, page by page, even the parts that hurt. I looked out at the sunset, golden, glowing, unapologetic. And I wrote the final words of my new book. I found a diary in my dead husband's closet. But what I truly found was the strength to become my own ending.